1. So we are pleased to be joined by George Wilson, one of my all-time Bills favorite players when I was there. Before a 9-year NFL career, including 7 with the Bills, he was a standout wide receiver, University of Arkansas leading him to 4 bowl games, signed with the Lions as an undrafted free agent, acquired by the Bills, and his career blossomed after switching from receiver to safety. I cannot wait to explore that with you, George. He made an instant impact as a starter, a playmaker. He was a captain, 2-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee, and so much more. Josh and I love to talk about football journeys on the show, and George, to me, you're a special one. So thanks for joining us. And where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Atlanta, Georgia. I appreciate the opportunity for you guys to have me on today. So I'm looking forward to spending some more time with you guys.
Excellent. Well, last time we had you on, it was special circumstances. It was right after Damar Hamlin had come back. I think it was even that day. And we had you and Ryan Neufeld on because you were on the field with Kevin Everett, and you just gave such a vivid memory, and you kind of put us there. And but I knew then I wanted to talk more about your career. And so thanks for coming on to do that. And going back to college, I saw you at a game, 172 receiving yards in 71-63 win at Kentucky. Like a basketball score. What was that game like for you?
Oh, man, it was an emotional roller coaster, to say the least. You know, that was my senior year at Arkansas. It was my first time playing back in my home state of Kentucky. I remember for that game, I had 77 tickets for my family and friends. So I had a lot of cousins to show up to the game that day. But my whole family and hometown came out and supported us. We played in 7 overtimes that night. It was my career game with 9 catches, like you said, 172. And a touchdown. And, believe it or not, I played in another 7 overtime against Eli Manning at Ole Miss. And then I also played against the University of Tennessee in a 6 overtime game. So that seemed to be in our repertoire a lot in Arkansas, those overtime games. You know, I think for a while there, the Kentucky game was the longest game in NCAA history. I'm not for sure if it still is. So,
George, which one of those games was that crazy game where were you in that game where they had that lateral on that 4th and 25 or whatever in one of the overtimes?
No, that wasn't us at Arkansas on the 4th and 25 lateral.
Okay, yeah. All right. Do you like the college overtime? Do you prefer the pro overtime? I saw the XFL had kind of a weird overtime this weekend. What's your feeling on overtime? If we're talking about it?
I really like the college one. You know, where you got to go for 2. You know, you got to not only get the touchdown, you got to go for 2 after a certain point. And so I really think that really brings to the forefront the mental toughness, the preparation, the focus that you have to have for a full game, even if it is extra time. So I like that the game hinges on one play, whether that's on offense or defense. I mean, I think that's what builds the excitement. In the NFL, there's more money. Let's just be honest. There's more money around the game, being bet on the game. And so you want to give both teams an opportunity to possess the ball, to have a chance. I think that's a fair rule to have in place. And I think we'll move closer to that, to where coming out in the first overtime, no matter what happens, each team will get a possession. I think that's only right if you earn a chance to make it to the overtime. You don't want to just leave it to a coin flip, chance of a coin flip to determine the outcome of a game, especially with the high-powered and potent offenses, that makes up the NFL right now. I really think that to balance the playing field, it's a good look to give both teams a possession.
You just got a collective amen from Bills fans after 2022 and Kansas City.
Oh yeah, that hurt. That definitely hurt. But I think that the NFL does a really good job with the competition committee going into the offseason each year and trying to make the game more exciting, more fun, more fan-driven, and trying to improve the overall fan experience, whether you're in stadium or at home. And so I really think the NFL does a good job, and they don't shy away from taking notes from the college football as well as the XFL. I think it's all been good for the NFL to grow the game and try to make it more fun and exciting for the average viewer.
Yeah, no, clarification. I meant January of 2021 Bills, but yeah, I think you nailed that, George. So after that incredible college career where you had a collective 20 overtimes in 3 games over. If you saw my wheels turning, I was trying to do the math when you guys were talking. So that has to be a record, I would think. But so you go to Detroit after as an undrafted free agent, and you what was that experience like? And then it obviously led you to Buffalo. So maybe take us through that part of your career going there, making that team, and then ending up here in Buffalo.
Yeah, just you asking that question, Don, just brought back so many memories just come to mind. And I just remember how green I was. I didn't have any idea of what really professional sports, specifically professional football, really entailed. I know I played at a high level in college, but getting to the NFL and being in Detroit, I tried to mimic what I did as a freshman in college. When I was a freshman, I tried to follow the seniors, the guys that were starting, watch their regiment, do what they do, follow them, follow their lead. And when I got to the NFL, that's essentially what I did in Detroit. I had a veteran by the name of Reggie Swinton, who was a returner and receiver from Little Rock, Arkansas, and he played at Murray State University near my hometown of Paducah, Kentucky. And so Reggie took me under his wing, and Reggie taught me as a rookie. This is before my signing bonus was $7,500. So after taxes, I got about $3,600. And so, Reggie taught me the business of the NFL, the business of the game, helping me to read the room that I'm in, knowing based on draft picks, free agent signings, new contracts, that kind of predetermines who's going to make the roster. And so being able to understand that side of the game and that side of the business really helped me to kind of quiet my mind, because you have 90 guys coming into camp and you're trying to figure out, where do I fit in? Where can I make my way? Where can I find a way to make, earn a spot on this team? And so learning the business side helped me to understand who really was the threat at the, to get the spot, who was my biggest threat, who was my biggest competition. And that really helped me to focus on what I needed to do to put my best foot forward each and every day. And so that time in Detroit was so invaluable to the rest of my career. And I spent the rest of my career pouring what Reggie Swinton poured into me, into other guys, and helping those, being a rookie, away from your family, don't really know anybody. I wanted to try to be that big brother to the guys in the locker room that I came in contact with, to let them know, hey, I've been a practice squad guy like you. And so my experience in Detroit, having veterans like Reggie Swinton, going up on against DBs like Dre Bly, who used to always talk trash, and here I am, a young practice squad receiver trying to make my way, and he's treating me like I'm a veteran, and like this just makes you grow up fast. And so just really getting the business side of things is what I would say. From my experience in Detroit, I do think that it was my first time in living in a big city. My rookie year was the year that the Detroit Pistons won the NBA championship. And so I spent more time living the NFL life before I actually was in the NFL. I'm willing, go on the record and saying that when I was in Detroit, I wasn't the pro that I had became when I was in Buffalo. And so when Detroit eventually released me and I went to Buffalo, I vowed that I would make the changes and the sacrifices necessary for me to have a sustainable career.
Yeah. Do you think, George, can you maybe tell people, we've had a bunch of people on the show, and we always talk about their draft day, the process going up to the draft. As a guy who wasn't drafted, was there any thought that you might be drafted? Once you weren't drafted, maybe you could explain to people the process of, as an undrafted free agent. Did you pick Detroit? Was Detroit your only option? Like, how'd that work?
That's a great question, Josh. So, my draft day experience, I was in Fayetteville, Arkansas, I was sitting in my home at the time, and I knew I wasn't going to be a first or second round pick, but based on some feedback that my agent had, I had a chance of being a middle round guy, a fifth or sixth round draft, fourth, fifth, sixth round draft pick. But that didn't happen. I remember immediately after, I was, as it got later and later, I started to get a little deflated. Because everybody had dreams of their name being called on draft day, no matter if it's the first day or the last day or the last pick of the draft. And so, but immediately after the draft ended, I got a couple of calls. It was from Tyke Tolbert, was the receiver coach at Buffalo. Buffalo called, offered me an undrafted free agent contract, $3,000. Then the Detroit Lions called. GM at the time, Martin Mayhew, called, offered me another opportunity in Detroit. It was $7,500. Again, it was just economics for me. But one thing I do remember, Coach Tyke Tolbert was very, very adamant on trying to get me there in Buffalo. He was telling me that I would have a chance, but me not knowing what I didn't know. I went with the money, and God would have it that I would experience, I would meet for the very first time Dick Geron during my time in Detroit. And so like that, my time in Buffalo is directly connected to my experience and time in Detroit. And so, I was definitely, a little deflated and down, but I had to remind myself quickly that I still had a chance. And I'm still going to get an opportunity. And that immediately refocused me and re-energized me. And I was excited to go and see my jersey. I wore number 19. I saw Wilson on the back of the jersey, and just trying to just take advantage of the opportunities, because I had to remind myself there were a lot of my high school and college teammates that wish they had this opportunity. So while it did not come the way that I dreamt that it would, I have it, and I'm not going to complain about how I got it. I just want to make the most of it.
Yeah, a couple things you said there. I've been a part of hundreds of those phone calls right after the draft. And for the record, they start right after the draft. Well, the phone calls can happen during the seventh round,
right?
But no email or correspondence can be sent officially until that draft is over and they're timestamped. But every position coach will tell the guy, an undrafted free agent, I really feel like you have a chance to make this team. And it's such a cruel numbers game, George. Like you said, you have 90 trying to make 53. You know who the guys you're competing against are. And I always love to see players that made the team as an undrafted free agent, guys like Jabari Greer and you. And when you came over to the Bills, though, then, yeah, Tyke was there, but we had Lee Evans, Peerless Price, Josh Reed, Roscoe Parrish.
Emos.
Oh, yeah.
Emos the team was still there.
Loaded.
Sam Aiken was still there.
Right. And he was a special teams ace,
right.
and they were trying to make him more of a receiver. Again, you faced long odds to make that. And who knows, you still might have cracked the lineup as a receiver, but to me, something more amazing happened. And so, as folks know, you ended up being encouraged. I'd love to know from who. I think John Guy was involved. We had him on our program, but how did that happen? And then for you to go from receiver to, usually you think of like body type or a receiver similar to a corner, but you went to safety, which is almost like a pseudo linebacker at times, up on the line. And what were you thinking when that was proposed to you? And take us through, because it's incredible to me how successful you were with that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I get chills just hearing you just talk about it. But I always played a physical brand of football, even as a wide receiver. I was one of the guys that didn't mind going down into the trenches and trying to block a linebacker or a safety, trying to fill the run gap. And so, because I played physical on offense, got me an opportunity to cover kicks on special teams. And it was there, where they saw some defensive tenacity and aggression and physicality that they saw some potential in. And so, I remember it was a spring, I think around roughly April 2007. Dick Geron was going into his, I believe, second year. And we were back for off-season workouts. And I'm in there getting dressed for morning workout. And Dick comes in there and he's like, George, would you come up to my office? And I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's April, so I haven't done anything to get released. But okay, let me get dressed and go up there. So it's kind of like equivalent to getting called to the principal's office at school. And so I go up there and, you know, he's telling me, he's like, George, you know, we love everything about you. You know, you're a great leader. Have great work ethic. You know, you're a great team player. You know, we love having you. And so we want to try to create an opportunity to keep you around, because he was very honest with me. He was like, with what we have in the receiver room right now, you know, at best you'd be starting to try to make, you know, the 5th or 6th receiver based on our financial commitments. And so, you know, he told me to go home and to think about it, because, you know, he told me that they wanted to consider moving me at safety, you know, and just to go home and think about it. I didn't have to answer him right then. And so before I left out his office, I just asked Coach straight up, you know, I was like, Coach, if I make this change, will I really get a real opportunity, or is this a move just to try to get me out of the way? Because there have been times, you know, you'll get athletes that come into the NFL, no specific position, and they'll just throw them around anywhere at training camp just to see where they, you know, if they stick. Really, they don't really stick because they don't get enough time or reps at the position, you know, to really have a good chance at making it. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't experience that as well, you know, because I saw other guys go through that. And so I go home, I come back, go home. I talk to my mom. I talk to my brother who played college football. Was like my idol growing up. I talk to my agent, and, you know, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, here I am. I've been in the NFL for 3 years. I haven't caught a pass, let alone a touchdown. No meaningful reps at wide receiver. I'm like, maybe this is the opportunity that I've been waiting for, you know. And sometimes I've learned in life that, you know, opportunities are often disguised as hard work. And, you know, I never thought that I would be asked to make that position change at such a high level, but I knew that I had the work ethic and the attitude to put the work in to give myself the best chance. And if I was going to, you know, go out of the NFL, I was going to go out giving it my best and laying it all on the line. And so I go back in the next day. I tell Coach Geron that I'm willing to do it. I'm ready to do it. And he reminded me that he also changed positions. You know, he came in the NFL as a running back and ended up playing corner in the NFL. And so that gave me more comfort, even more comfort, you know, in making that decision. And then we had Marv Levy, the great Marv Levy was our general manager at the time. And he also assured me that I would get a chance. And so, but you also mentioned John Guy. After I left Dick Geron's office that day, he initially called me up there. John Guy pulled me out the office. Obviously, the, you know, team management had this conversation in a meeting. And so John Guy pulls me in this office. You know, he's the director of pro personnel. So you see every guy's name in the NFL on a board, on a dry erase board. It's almost wrapped on 3 walls. You have every guy, you know, and they're on these magnets. And so they're grouped by years of playing experience. So you got your rookies, your first year guys, your first year guys, your second, third, on so forth. And so he gets to the 3rd and 4th year guys. Remember, I'm just coming out of my 3rd year and I'm going into my 4th. And so the name list on year 3 was so vast. It was so vast. But when you look at year 4, when I looked at year 4, it was a fraction. I would say it was maybe a quarter to a third of the names were in year 4. And he said, George, right here is the average career, right in between these 2 years. 3.5 years was the average playing career at that time. And so he told me, he was like, this position change will help you sustain your career and help you to build and have a long lasting career. But you gotta do the work. You gotta put in the time and the effort. And so I made the position change. I had a great position coach in George Katabalis.
Yeah.
And then
he was also from Detroit, right? Were you?
Yeah. So George,
Yeah.
George was the DB coach when I was a practice squad wide receiver in Detroit. So like the connections are that's another connection, from my time in Detroit. But I remember as soon as I made the position change, there were two guys on the team that really stepped up and helped me. And that was Jim Leonard, who was also a undrafted rookie free agent.
Right.
And then there was also a guy we signed from the Jacksonville Jaguars to be our nickelback named Kawaki Thomas.
Yeah.
And so Jim helped me learn the playbook because, I come from offense, so I don't know how to look at the defensive playbook and to be able to figure out what applies to me. What do I need to learn? And not try to learn everything, just starting out. And so Jim helped me to really scale it back, dumb it down to where I knew exactly what I was doing, no matter the formation, no matter the adjustment. And so he really helped me to shorten my learning curve by learning the playbook. And so Kawaki Thomas, we spent countless days after spring workouts, after training camp practices, working on my back pedal technique, working on my seam flat coverage technique, working on my back pedal, working on my plant and break, my drive, and just all the little nuances of being a defensive back. He really helped me being my look guy or showing me what I'm supposed to do or helping me to make the connection between the playbook and the technique that I'm playing. And so like having two real smart veteran guys, they're both coaches now, so it makes perfect sense on how they were so impactful and helpful with me. They had that natural, coaching approach and being able to explain things in a way that was, simple and easy for me to understand. But those guys really poured into me. And the thing about Jim is Jim was on the depth chart in front of me. So imagine trying to train a guy that is essentially coming to compete with you for a job, and so that really shows his character, and that really helped to prepare me for later in my career where I was asked to do the same thing toward the end of my time in Buffalo. And because I had that experience with Jim, it made it much easier for me to do that for the next person, because it wasn't about me. It was about me. It was about the guy that I was trying to help and trying to put him in a position to provide for his family and live his dream, just as Jim and Kawaki and Coach Duran had helped me to do. And so it's just such a great time and a great story. But I didn't do it by myself by any means. I had a lot of days where Coach Katabalis would stay after meetings with me and quiz me. But all in all, I went into training camp just trying to make a play every day. That was my goal. Make a play every day. Don't make the same mistake twice, and show phenomenal effort. Just show effort. Just show that I'm willingness to run to the ball, to put my body in harm's way, to get the ball, to stop the ball carrier, and then to show a cerebral aspect of my game and not committing the same mistakes over and over again, or learning from other guys' mistakes and not having to commit those mistakes on my own. And by the end of training camp, I earned a spot on the team as the fifth safety.
Incredible.
Let me pop in here with two quick ones, George. So first of all, when's the last time you played defense before that training camp?
High school.
Okay. Were you a safety in high school?
I played free safety in high school.
Okay. Secondly, what do you think it was about your style of play, or you personally, that led the team, led Dick Duran, all those guys to figure, hey, maybe we'll switch this guy rather than just picking up, a street safety, like somebody who had experience. Obviously, they're going to put a lot of time and effort and commitment into this transition. What do you think it was about maybe your athleticism, or what do you think they saw in you that made them think that it was possible?
And one quick thing I would say there is, you talk about Jim Leonard. You do, George. You have size to you, not just for a receiver, but you look like you could handle yourself out there, take hits, deliver hits. Jim Leonard could walk anonymously around the street. No one would ever guess he was an NFL player, but he had a heck of a career. I didn't know he was a coach now too. But yeah, great question, Josh. So yeah, what did they see in you that?
Yeah, so I think what they first saw was I was smart. I was intelligent. I could learn the playbook pretty easy. I was a good student in school, so it was easy for me to learn my plays and remember my plays. When I was studying my playbook. When I was a wide receiver, I had to learn all 4 positions. If you're a guy competing for the last spot, you got to be ready to go in any position. If somebody goes down for an injury or, cleat messed up or equipment malfunction, you got to be ready at all times. And so because I knew all 4 positions at the wide receiver spot, I think they saw that I was a student of the game, and that no matter what I'm studying, I'm gonna be diligent in those studies, and I'm gonna be able to bring them back to my recollection, in a timely manner, and be able to react accordingly. And so I think it was definitely the cerebral part of my game. But then also I think, like you said, Don, I had good size. I was 6'1", roughly, 6'1", 6'2", played about 215. And I didn't mind physical contact. I actually sought it out and looked for it. And so, when I was covering kicks, I was a 5 or a 4. So I was busting the wedge before they took the wedge out of the game. When I was running into wedges, it was made up of 4 or 5 guys. Just completely insane. But I was trying to make the team and live my dream. And so I definitely think it was the physicality that I played the game with as well. And then also, I was a communicator. I love to talk. I love to talk the game. And being on defense, especially in the secondary at safety, you are the eyes and the ears for a lot of guys. I'm standing behind everyone, and so everyone can't really see what I see. And so I can call attention to something that I see that may be a tip. And that's something that I really wanted to try to bring to the table. When I was on offense, I used to hear London Fletcher every day in practice calling out the plays before the ball was snapped. And I learned over time that was through his film preparation. So it was through, formation recognition. And
sorry about that. It was about formation recognition and where the ball was on the field and what was the motion or something like that tipped the hand. And so just seeing Fletch do that, I wanted to try to exemplify that and try to follow in his footsteps and being a quarterback of the defense. And so when I switched positions, that's essentially what I did. I tried to pride on taking care of my corners, not leaving them on the island, but also protecting my linebackers and my defensive ends from crushing blindside blocks. And so, I just wanted to try to be, have great vision and be able to help my teammates react faster by doing the film study and, giving them tips and alerts.
I can't wait to ask you this. London Fletcher, by the way, another great underdog story coming from a D3 school, just overachiever, great.
Oh yeah.
But so Josh, you were just in Vegas. You understand odds and everything. What would the odds have been for someone to say pre-2007? Okay, George Wilson, this is the year you're going to score your first NFL touchdown.
On defense.
It's going to be on defense. And my gosh, when you talk about earlier getting chills, I remember being in the press box that night for the big Monday night game against the Cowboys, and it was your first start. Man, what a stage and what you did with it. Take us through that, because that was incredible.
Oh yeah. Well, just leading up to that, I'll kind of take you back to the first game of the year, because I had made the position change. I walk in the locker room, and there are only it's 53 active guys. There's only 46 that's active and playing that day. So here I am. I've made the position change. I'm excited to go and play and show what I can do. And I go in the locker room.
Yeah, is this how you made the team? Because I would be so. If I forgot to ask you what you felt like when you made the team.
No. You're good. I'm leaving. Yeah. No.
Okay, good.
I did end up making the team. I said that at the end of the initial story, so you didn't miss that. But I made the team. But when I remember walking into the locker room that first game of the season, I was inactive. And so I didn't get to dress out, and I felt bad. I was upset. I was frustrated because I'm like, man, I've worked my tail off. I've done everything they've asked me to do, and then I come in and I'm not playing, you know? So every guy wants to play, but there's always 7 guys that are inactive. And so, again, I sat down in my empty locker and I quickly reminded myself, I'm closer than I've ever been. I'm not where I was a year ago. I'm on the team. I have a chance. That's all that matters. And so I go through that game. Cole Simpson is the starting free safety. He breaks his ankle and is out for the year. The first game of the season. Jim Leonard is the backup. He gets in. And he starts the next 3 games. We play the Jets in week 4. Jim strains his calf muscle. So going into week 5, you know, that's how those were the things that, you know, took place in the weeks leading up to that Monday Night Football game against Dallas. And so I say that because I had to constantly remind myself that I got to prepare for an opportunity. The opportunity is coming. It's 100% injury risk. You just got to prepare. And so I reminded myself to always prepare as if I was the starter. And if I did that, I would always be ready whenever the opportunity came. And so when the opportunity presented itself on Monday Night Football against Dallas, you know, they told me on Wednesday that they were going to give me the chance. They were going to start me, and they were going to give me the starter reps. I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell my friends. The only people that knew about it were my teammates. And so I did that because growing up, my family were Dallas Cowboys fans. If I tell them, they're going to be too excited. They're going to be a distraction to me. So I withheld that to the very last minute. And
that was smart because you'd also get 77 more cousins again.
Right. And so I remember we went to our meetings the night before at the hotel. We get up the next day. We have a morning meeting and we go home. I go home. I take a nap before the game. While I'm sleeping, I have a dream that I have an interception and I run it back for a touchdown. Immediately when I wake up, I drop to my knees and I pray. I'm like, dear Lord, if you let this dream come true, I'll offer the ball up to you as a sacrifice. And so, you know, we get over to the stadium. Like you said, Don, it's an electrifying atmosphere. They've been tailgating all day. It's a night game. So, you know, the Buffalo Bills Mafia, you know, is in full effect and you know, in the right spirit for a Monday night game. And so I remember warming up. T.O.'s warming up on the other end of the field. George Katavolis comes up to me. He said, George, when's the last time you played a defensive snap? And I said, high school. He looked at me. He said, good luck. You know, and so, but, you know, we get into the game. We go on defense first. So I love that because we get to set the tone for the team. But third play of the game, Romo tries to hit Jason Witten over the middle of the field. It's a slight overthrow. And just like in the dream, I caught an interception and my teammates blocked for me and escorted me into the end zone. And I held up my end of the bargain like he did. And I offered the ball up to the heavens as a sacrifice. But, you know, that was just a great moment, electrifying, because I had the dream of playing in the NFL when I was in the 4th grade. And so it was about a 16-year gap between the first time I had that dream and living that dream. And so that was a 16 years of blood, sweat, and tears, of wins and losses, good decisions and bad decisions, successes and failures. But that moment made it all worth it. It made all those days staying after practice and made it all worth it. And so that really helped to kick off the second half of my career as a safety.
Did that play, George? Did that play take away all the nerves? I can imagine, you know, anybody in their first start would be nervous. Somebody even in their 4th year would be nervous. But the idea of you switching positions, switching sides of the ball, Monday Night Football, Dallas Cowboys, like you said about your family, did that play then, you know, people always talk about, hey, you take your first hit and then, you know, the nerves go away and the game starts. You did one better. You scored a pick 6, you know, on Monday Night Football. Was after that, was it, you know, just kind of game on and you felt comfortable? Or during that game, did you feel like they still maybe targeted you a little bit as a rookie, never playing, you know, safety before? Like, how the rest of that game feel for you once that play happened?
And yeah, Josh, you know, we keep saying it's a Monday night game because of how special the big spotlight. But Josh, you know this, and George, it's a long day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that day, you talk about nervous, you'd almost rather play at 1, I think, but 8:30 at night, you have all day just to, holy cow, to process it.
Yeah, just to come out the gates and make that play early in the game definitely gave me the confidence of a lifetime. It immediately made me feel like I belonged and that I'm supposed to be here, that I deserve this moment, and to be able to make a play like that shows that I have the ball skills and the playmaking ability to sustain this. And so as we go throughout the game, I do believe they still would try to target me. But I believe we played a lot of cover 2 that game, I believe. But they ended up going in 2-minute mode a lot in the second half because they were trying to come back. Romo threw like 5 interceptions that night, so I wasn't the only one that got a goodie off of Tony that night. But they definitely tried to go after me. But I knew that I belonged, that if they tried me enough, I would get another opportunity. And so, but I didn't shy away from it. It was something that I wore a badge of honor with, because I knew that if the teams knew that I was green and I was inexperienced, they were going to target me. But those targets will give me opportunities to make plays on the footballs. And so I believe that year I ended up with 2 interceptions, because a few weeks later, Mark Sanchez threw me one on an out route. I was in man coverage on the guy, so I really got to show some athleticism and some ball skills. I was covering an out route, and I covered it on the inside, and then I made a play slipping the tight end coming underneath and stealing it at the last second. But only an athlete with really good ball skills could do that. With me being a former wide receiver, I certainly had that, and I think that was another reason why Coach Duran and the Buffalo Bills, coaching staff offered me that opportunity, because I had the ball skills.
Maybe you could clear this up for everybody. How many DBs truly can catch?
I'll say realistic, like really good hands. I say you probably got about somewhere between 25 and a third, 25, a quarter to a third.
Do you feel like it's true? Do you feel like it's true that they put guys on defense because they can't catch?
I think the guys mainly evolve into those positions. I really think catching is a skill set that you can develop over time. It's something that you really have to work at with your hand-eye coordination, not just catching footballs, but catching tennis balls. Just working on strengthening your focus and your hands and your forearms. But I mean, we have some great athletes. But DBs work on backpedaling and knocking the ball down more than they do catching the ball. As a wide receiver, I stood in front of the jug machine or the quarterback for hours on end. As a DB, you don't really do that. You might get a few balls to catch in individual drill, or if you come out for early before practice or after practice. But you really don't get the ball skills that you have as a wide receiver when you play defensive back. So that's why you see that kind of being an adage that continues to live up, because guys don't really work on that.
Yeah, we've had Marlon Kerner on the program. He's a friend of the program. He talks about backpedaling all the time. It's the number one thing. Now, he was a corner, but still, as a DB, that's just so paramount.
Yeah, I played. Yeah. I caught, even when I moved to defense, I used the jug machine like I was still a wide receiver. Like I still caught hundreds of balls each and every day. As long as I had a partner or an equipment manager to shoot the balls to me, I would stay, and catch balls for an hour, maybe 2 hours if I got some guys with me. So, that was something I never stopped doing.
Yeah.
Was there been a scenario, George, if a couple of wide receivers had gone down during a game? Was there a world where you might have had to fill in as a wide receiver during a game? Did that ever happen close to it?
No, it never happened. Most of our receivers didn't really play special teams. And so, and then we didn't run a whole bunch of 4 wide sets, until toward the end of my career. And that was kind of where it was out of the picture. Maybe when I initially moved, there may have been an opportunity. But, as I got settled more and more into special teams and defense, my days of playing a wide receiver was over with. I was only on the look team when we were servicing these guys as DBs. So,
well, we're going to do our 2-minute warning here in a minute. when you were on briefly for on our program after DeMar Hamlin, we were talking about Kevin Everett. The tone of our show, serious show, of course. We wanted to have a little fun though on this one. Before we do that, though, as a captain, you were a captain for the team when the lockout was about to happen. How did you prepare yourself and help talk to your teammates about the possibility of a long lockout?
Yeah, that was definitely another, I say, highlight of my career, not necessarily for football, but for the politics and the business side.
Mm-hmm.
I became an NFL player rep in 2009. And so I learned the real business model of the NFL and how that really works on a league-wide scale. And so when we got ready to go into the lockout, it was my job to get our guys prepared for, a work stoppage, helping to, encouraging them to make the financial sacrifices to be able to endure the longer off season, because we really didn't know when we were going to go back. And so, and then once the season was over with, I really had to communicate with my guys, either doing a conference call or sending out emails. We didn't have, all the technology like we have now to be able to do these Zooms and, things of that nature. But, I just wanted to try to give the guys timely, accurate information so they can make the best decision for themselves and their families. But it was definitely a difficult time. Nobody really knew what that was really going to look like. But, I think that we handled it pretty well. I know, being at that time, I was at a different position than I was when I first got to Buffalo. I was a established veteran. I've had, my contract where I didn't have to, worry about when my next check was coming. And so I was in a different position, but that actually gave me perspective when I talked to my guys about the lockout and also just trying to make the best decision. I can't make a decision solely based on where I am personally. I have to think about the little guy. I have to think about the practice squad guy, the undrafted rookie free agent, as well as, the third year guy trying to go into his fourth year. I'm thinking about all these different people that make up the locker room and trying to make the best decision possible and trying to communicate with them and like I said, in a consistent and timely manner, so they didn't have to depend on the news reports coming from television and anything like that. Because, in that world, the NFL owns all the media that covers the NFL. And so sometimes they can get their messaging out in a way that would kind of divide the players union. And so I wanted to try to combat that by communicating with my guys in an effective and timely manner so that they didn't so that they weren't confused by what the reports were saying.
Yeah, they were fortunate to have your leadership there, and thank goodness it didn't last that long. So, Josh, we're gonna. I don't know if we said this at the beginning of the program, but you're in our satellite office there.
Yeah, yeah. I'm in my home. I got COVID in Vegas, so unfortunately, thankfully, that's the only virus I caught there. I'm sure I'm not the first and won't be the last. But we're gonna do the 2-minute warning. We have a board up in our Plus Studios in Don's basement that we usually have 10 questions. So I'm gonna kind of do a couple off the cuff and so we do 10 questions in 2 minutes, and George, we're just gonna fire away, and whatever comes to the top of your head, we'll have a little bit of fun. So I'll go first. And do you watch the Bills game every Sunday? And if you do, where's your favorite place to watch one?
I'm usually at home. I usually watch the NFL Sunday Ticket, but if the game is really good, I'll tune in to that programming.
All right. 3 people, dead or alive, that you'd want to dine with.
Oh man, Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali. Probably. I'd love to have my grandfather back, talk to him again, and then I would say probably.
That's a heavy one.
Yeah, that is. You only get 3. That's a tough one. But I would say probably Michael Jordan. Yeah.
There you go.
Michael Jordan.
All right.
So you're entering the room. There's dry ice. What's your entrance song?
An arena. You're entering an arena.
Yeah. Big deal. You're a big deal. What's your entrance song?
Oh man. I'm coming into in the air tonight. Got to.
There you go.
Yeah. With the beats drop. Yeah. I want to walk out. I want to walk out right before the beats drop.
I saw Phil Collins in concert. It was in the round, and there was a stage, and he was singing a song, walking around the stage. There was an empty drum set on the stage. I'm like, they can't do the song without that part. But just as he gets there, he walks up a couple steps, grabs the sticks. And awesome.
Hey, when I hear that song now, it still makes the hair on my arm stand up just from all those experiences in the NFL.
Yeah, there you go. The best concert you've ever seen?
Oh, the best concert. Oh, I saw Usher in Vegas last year. Exceptional concert.
All right.
What's your favorite road stadium to play a game in?
Oh man, I would say by far my best road experience was in Oakland, the old Oakland Coliseum. Man, it was a combative, hostile environment. People throwing stuff at you, yelling at you through the bleachers. You couldn't see them; they could see you. Like that was a great experience.
Yeah, scary place. Back to your Buffalo days. Your favorite Buffalo restaurant and dish you have there?
Oh man, that's an easy one. That's the filet at the Buffalo Chop House. I was a staple there every Friday night when I was a player in Buffalo.
Nice.
What was your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Thundercats.
Nice.
Can you drive a stick shift?
I wish I could. I'm ashamed to own a farm and not be able to drive a stick shift. No, I can't.
If you could switch to safety in the NFL, you could learn to drive a stick shift.
I know.
Come on now. Maybe just a couple more here. Most annoying fan base in the NFL. If you love the Oakland guys, which fans did you hate?
The Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my God, they are the worst.
Your top 3 favorite sports movies of all time?
Oh, that's a good one. I would say, in no order, I'll say Remember the Titans, The Program, The Program, and then probably Rocky IV.
Drago.
We just watched that with my 10-year-old boys 2 nights ago.
I still love it. Like, when I was in Buffalo, I used to always go back in the evening times or at nighttime and do just extra cardio and extra workout. I used to have the Rocky soundtrack, the playlist.
Love it.
Listening to Heart on Fire, Eye of the Tiger.
Yes.
Like, all of that, man. Like, I lived it. I remember going. One of my youngest memories, I went with my mom and dad to see Rocky IV when it came out, and so it has a sentimental place in my heart because of that, but also because of the motivation that the soundtrack gave me.
Awesome.
Tice, my son Tice was convinced that Sylvester Stallone was drunk the entire movie. So that was his first Sylvester Stallone movie. Last question for you, George. Can you sing us 5 seconds of the Arkansas fight song?
Oh man, you just got me. Hold on, give me a second.
I must break.
I'm going back to Arkansas this weekend. You're gonna get me in trouble.
We'll tag them on Twitter for sure.
I think it starts with hit that line. Okay. Something like, I'm not gonna be able to live this down.
We'll put that on a clip and we'll tag Arkansas football this weekend on Twitter.
It was right there, I can tell.
I'm gonna pay for this at our spring game this weekend.
That's funny.
George, this has been fantastic. Again, you're one of my favorite guys to come through the building, and man, just hearing the background and how some of those events that shaped your career and your life transpired and how they started. Thanks so much for sharing it all, and really appreciate you, and can't wait for people to hear this.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Buffalo has a special place in my heart. You guys are special people, and I'm so appreciative of all the love and support that you guys have given me throughout the years. I'll close, if I can, just with a quick story on what the Buffalo Bills fan base is really like as far as their passion and everything. So 2011, we beat the Patriots for the first time in a long time. And so, I had an interception and we like I said, we upset them that day. Come out the locker room, the fans are stayed after the game. They're around the tunnel and everything. So, we take pictures, autographs, things of that nature. And so I see, because the guys drive out of the stadium, the same cars every week, the fans kind of learn the vehicles of the guys or whatever, right? So I'm driving a silver Chrysler 300 at this time, and I look over in the parking lot, and it's a man and a woman standing next to my car, like they're not moving. And so I finish signing, taking pictures. I walk over there, and the man is like excited. He's like, "George, we love you. Thank you. Congratulations. Hey, I just want to," always said, in exchange for today's victory, he said, "I'm going to send my wife home with you."
Oh no!
as long as you return her tomorrow.
Oh my God!
The woman is completely dumbfounded. I look at him. I'm like waiting for him to start laughing and break character. He doesn't. He's serious. And I'm like, sir, I appreciate that, but no, you and your wife should go home together and celebrate together. You don't have to send her with me, but I appreciate the love and support. But yeah, he offered me his wife for the night after we beat the Patriots. So I was like, hey man, this is definitely by far the most passionate fan base in all the NFL. So
that's quite an incentive clause in the contract, right?
I can't top that story, but a funny side note about that game, we had Ryan Lindell on, and if you remember that last play, Fred Jackson caught the little dump pass, and he went down at like the 2-yard line to kill the time. And we asked Ryan, be honest, was there any small part of you that just wanted Fred to score? And he's like, well, knowing revisionist history, I know I made it. But I suppose I could admit that part of me was just like, just go ahead and get in there and we'll deal with it. But oh my gosh, offering his wife, that is absolutely classic.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, George. We'd love to have you on during the season.
All right. Hey, absolutely. We'd love to come back, man. You guys have a good one. Be safe and go Bills.
Thanks.
All right. Go Bills.
Awesome.
Take care.
All right.